Hi everybody, this is Bruce at Clayhorse Music in Boise. Welcome back to another video on how to use the RC-300 loop station. The RC-300 has 3 individual tracks, and today what we're going to talk about is a feature called single track mode. Typically what you're used to with a loop station is that you can start and stop any of the tracks at any one time. So you can start off with one track and then you can add another track layered on top of it, or you can start them all at the same time, or you can start 2 of them and then add a third. You can have 3 of them playing and you can stop one track. You can do all those things in single track mode off, or what I call parallel mode. These things are running in parallel. Now, opposite to that is something called serial mode. The serial mode or single track mode means that you can only run one track at a time. So you might ask yourself, well, what's the advantage of that? It sounds like more of a disadvantage than an advantage. But actually, it's a feature that makes it possible to play songs that have a verse, chorus, bridge structure, or they might have an intro section or an outro section, or something different about them. Sort of as you get into the song, you might need to switch gears, you might need to change keys, you might need to do something that you can't do just in the normal fashion of running the same loop over and over. In order to do that then, let's just take the example of a key change. Let's say that you have a song that changes keys. Well, obviously then, if one key is on one track and the other key is on another track, obviously you can't run those 2 tracks at the same time. There's a point where you have to switch from one to the other. Single track mode makes that very easy because you can set the single track mode up to change tracks at the end of the loop. So you actually start one track and then as soon as that one is started, you can actually start another track, and it will wait until that track is finished, that loop is finished on that track, and it will automatically switch over to the other one. And I will show you some examples of this, which I think will make it very clear to you. But single track mode is a very powerful feature that allows you to have much more versatility in setting up your loop station than most loop stations, or like the RC-30, that don't have this feature. Let's start off with a real simple example with the single track mode off. This backing track only has 2 tracks being used. We see only track 1 and track 2 green LED lit up there. So I'll show you by kicking on track 1. We have that part. I'm going to turn this off. I'm going to turn on track 2, and we have a kind of an embellishment. So as typical, we can run both of those together. Sometimes we might want to run just that and bring this in for emphasis. But more typically, we would use the all on, all off in a case like this, because those 2 tracks work together in a way that we would typically want to kick them both on or off at the same time. Now let's look at a slightly more sophisticated example of the parallel mode or single track mode off. This is the demo that I used for a previous video to explain the features of the RC-300, and in this demo we talked about track 1 being used all the way through the whole song from beginning to end, and then track 2 and track 3 being brought in and out at various times. So typically what we would do is start off with track 1, and then we would bring in track 2, which is playing. I've got it set up to play instantly when I press this, and to stop at the end of the loop. I can bring in now the 3rd one, which is the high arpeggio, and then when I press these to stop, the LEDs will flash, and at the end of the loop it will go back to just the 1st track. Now this is still in parallel mode because I am able to turn either one of the tracks on or off at any time, but I have programmed it so that they will go off at the end of the loop. Now here they're about to go off. Now we're back to just track 1 playing. so that you have a chance to build up your song so that you can bring in different sections at different times for emphasis, or to fill it out, or to kind of drop back and have the solo come through more clearly or something like that. But this is a good example of the parallel mode. Here are the two menu items that are most important for setting up single track mode. If we go to Memory Edit and then step through this menu until we get to single track. Okay, so this is a new memory location. It's defaulted to off. We can turn it on. Now the next memory selection is very important. This is memory track change immediate. I typically use the loop end so that you can press the play on the next loop you want, the next track you want to play, and it will automatically end the previous track and switch to the new track without you having to hit the play button at exactly the right time. Now let's look at a couple examples of the single track mode. This is a very good example of the usage of single track mode. Basically the way this is set up is that I have on track 1 a little loop that continues over a set of chords over and over again, but it is not the actual verse of the song. It's more like vamping or an intro or an outro or something like that. And on track 2 we have the actual verse of the song, and then in track 3 it's the chorus, or in this case it's really sort of the end of the verse, but it's different from track 2. That's the key thing. That's what you need to take away from this. And when you listen to this, you realize that we could not have done this song without a separate piece on each one of these tracks. So let's kick it off here. This would be a chance for us to sort of give some intro licks to kind of get the song started, but you don't want to jump straight into the verse on this. Typically I would have switched into the verse by now, but since I was yakking, we'll do it now. And it will say, okay, I'm ready to go into the verse. Now it goes into the verse. And let's run through that loop twice. And what we're going to do then is we're going to go into the end of the verse, or what we might call the chorus here. We'll press that and say, that's what we want next. Now listen, it'll go into that. Now we know that we want to go back to this verse part next, so we make sure that we press that button and get it ready. Now it's back into this. And then let's just say that all we want to do is kind of mess around and run some licks and kind of outro the song. So we will press this, and when the verse gets finished, it will go into the outro part. So now it's just vamping over that set of chords. So each one of these loops is the same length. We haven't played any games with loop length or anything else. It's just that we have been able to switch from the intro to the verse and then chorus or end of the verse, or whatever you want to look at it. But this part loops over and over. This part actually goes through the chords of the verse, and this part is separate than this part. So we want to go through this part twice, and then through this part once, and then back to here. So we can't do it all on one track unless we record the entire song on one of these tracks, and it just kind of defeats the whole purpose of a loop station when you do it that way. This way we have the versatility to bring in different sections of the song any time we want to, and have them sync up at the end of the loop with our stop at loop end feature. And it makes it very, very easy to support yourself playing this type of song. Now let's look at one last example of the single track mode. This is a little demo that I've written to illustrate some of the points, and I will actually go into some of the programming here and show you a few little tricks on how to set this up if you want to do this. On this demo I have, on the first track I have a set of chords, just D, A, and E, which would be 4, 1, 5 on the chart. and then this is DAB, which would be 412, and then this is a chord change. It's a chorus which goes into a modal chord change, and so that I just wanted to do that so that it sounds completely different. Now these, I can come up here and take a look at any of these tracks, 1, 2, or 3, and we see that these tracks are very short. They're only 2 measures long. This is important to know because you need to know how much time you have to switch tracks. So let me show you the first track here. So that's just D, A, E. Now we can switch, and I'm going to let that run one more time. And then I'm going to switch to this. And then back. Then I'm going to switch into this at the right time. Now we want to go into this. I'm going to let that do twice. That's the second time. Now it's ready to go into the chorus. Now after the chorus, and the chorus, by the way, is 8 bars. So it's not short like the other ones were. Now we're going to want to go into that. So I'm going to stop this now, and we are going to take a look again at the length of these. I'm going to take a look at the first track. We're in loop mode. Second track is in loop mode. Third track is in loop mode. Reverse, we don't care about reverse. Okay, measure. The first track, track 1 is 2 bars. Track 2 is 2 bars, and track 3 is 8 bars. So the only way that we could accommodate that is by setting up the loop sync mode. Track 1 loop sync mode is on. There's our 2 measures. Track 2 loop sync is on. Here's our 2 measures. But we had to break track 3 free from the other loops, so we had to turn this off. This allowed me then to record the third track, which was 8 measures, that long chorus, without it stopping after two measures and looping back on me like it would have done if this had been on. So that's the first trick. Now let me show you something else here that's kind of important. On the chorus, you'll notice that at the end of it that the drums kind of went on too long. Let me start it here. So this is 8 bars, so just bear with me. Okay, now listen to the drums in that turnaround. Okay, I'm going to let it run again. I'm going to show you, I would like to kill the drums during that augmented chord right at the very end of it. I'm going to show you how I do that. I've got this switch program to do that. Now listen. Kill. Active again. Alright, let me show you how we did that. Under the assign, we'll go to memory edit. We press it. As I showed you in the other video, there's a little shortcut here. Press 1, press 2. Okay, the assign 1 switch is what I've done to kill the drums. And the way I've set it up, it says assign switch 1 is on, and we're going to set this up. We're going to select rhythm level, another rhythm volume. That's what we want. That's what we want to affect. We basically want to turn it off. Now, what we've done is we have said that this, let me show you here. We got minimum and maximum. Here's a trick. There's 2 things going on here. First of all, at first I set it up so that the minimum was 0. Isn't that what you would think that you'd do to set this up? And that the maximum was whatever volume I wanted the drums to be. But what I found was that the functionality of the switch was reversed if I did that. So what I just did is I reversed the min and max, and I made the min 40. Now why is it 40 and not 200 or whatever? It's because that's where I set this rhythm volume knob. When I set it manually, I set it to 40. So I just said, hey, when I punch that button, I want it to go to 0. When I punch it again, I want it to play normal at 40. Actually, it's momentary. It's not a toggle, and that's another trick. We have set it up. Loop FX pedal. That's this pedal. You could set it to an external pedal. You could set it to this pedal, whatever. But it makes sense to set it to this one. And then you have momentary. If we had it toggle, what would happen is I'd have to press it to make the drums go off, and then press it again to make them come on. And in this particular case, it's nice to just be able to kill the drums just by putting your foot on it and taking your foot off when you want them to play again. Now this is just an example of the very, very many functions that are available to you to program these program functionality into these pedals. Let me just show you here under the assign one target. So some of your choices here. See, you've got all your track 1, track 2. You've got you can do almost anything you want. You can change the output. You can get it to pan. You can get it to reverse. You can just do all kinds of. These are all the selections that you can program into those pedals, either internal or external pedals. Okay, so just to let you know. All right, so so basically we need to find rhythm level. There it is. Okay, so that I kind of want to leave it there on the exit. So that in a nutshell is the single track function. What you need to understand is that if you have a section of your song that's different than any other section, you need to program a different track for it. You need to record a different track, run it in single track mode, and allow your loop end on loop end to automatically switch tracks for you, so that you don't have to be right on the dime to switch tracks. Let the machine do it for you. One more little trick I'd like to show you before we wrap up here, and that is how do you get a fourth part into your song when you have 3 tracks here that you can bring in different parts of the song that have different loops, different chord progressions on them. But there's a way that you can actually get a fourth part on it. Now this has to be pretty much an intro because you're depending on the drums here, and then you can start the drums early before you do anything else. But once you have ended the drums, you can't restart them conveniently. You have to reach down and turn on the drums manually. This is a bit awkward sometimes, so what you can do is you can reach down and turn the drums on, but you can have the volume pedal off. So you reach down, make an adjustment, looks perfectly normal, and what you're doing is you're turning the drums on. And then once you get ready to start playing, you start bringing the drums in. Now you have to be really diligent in terms of watching the one beat on this red light. And I can tell you there's some of these drum beats, especially the Latin drum beats, that the one beat is not the strong beat, and it can really throw you off when you're trying to get in time with the tempo. And the reason why you want to be really right on as you're playing your little intro part, whether it's a lead or chords or whatever you want, playing your intro right now. So we're going 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. And you want to cut that right in at the beginning of the one beat. Now I have come in and I have turned the count off. Let me show you here. This is the rhythm. So here's our shuffle. Here's our 4/4 time. This shows how long that is. And then the play count is off. That means that it is not going to count in when I play. Otherwise, when I press that start button, that play button, it would have counted in, and that's obviously not what you want. You want it to start immediately. So you start your rhythm, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, like that, okay? So you can play as long as you want before you start playing this, but try to bring it in right on that one beat. So anyway, I hope that you've gotten something out of this, and I've enjoyed showing you some of the features of the RC-300. It's a great machine. I hope you enjoy it if you've got one, and I will see you in the next video. You take care now.